Hello, lovelies! Welcome back to my channel. Corey here. If you are new, welcome. Hello. I don't normally look this shiny. This has been a weekend of cleaning. But I felt like I really needed to pop on here and just get some things off my chest. I know it's been a hot minute since I recorded. We will go back to regularly scheduled programming. Things have been a little chaotic recently. I still have a lot of physical therapy appointments. I was able to return to work part-time, which really sucks, but you know, I also don't want to push myself past my limits and injure myself further. For those of you that are new, I was in a pretty devastating car accident in April. Please be safe out there. Please buckle your seatbelt when driving, riding in a car. Don't want what happened to me to happen to you guys. You know, even being as safe as you possibly can, even with, you know, paying attention to the road, being a safe driver, you know, folks on the road, sometimes they're not safe. And an inattentive driver caused a 3-car collision, and here I am, months later, still working on recovering, still working on healing. And there you have it. So just be safe out there. It's my PSA for the day. Anyway, back to the point of this video. The amazing and freaking fabulous Avalon Cameron, who, if you're not following, what are you doing with your life? Seriously, go follow her. I will link the video below. This is kind of a video response to her video, part rant as well, just on my recent past experiences with our community. I love our community deeply, but sometimes we do go off the rails a little bit. And Avalon posted, this was just 2 days ago, she streamed a live and titled it Respect Your Fellow Witches. Ooh, girl. Can I just say, first and foremost, I wanted to scream, Amen! Everything Avalon was saying in this video. Because I love our spiritual and witchy communities and pagan communities, but sometimes, just like any other community, we have a tendency, because this is human nature, as we move further along in an area of study or on a certain pathway, and we become knowledgeable in that area, ego likes to pop up. This is the way you do things. This is how things are done. And Avalon made an excellent point that while we have a huge, huge benefit of, you know, having the internet kind of bring us all together, bring together all of these different cultures and practices of witchcraft, because craft is practiced all over the world. I don't know that there's a single culture where a form of craft, shamanism, is not practiced or has not been practiced historically. That, you know, when these cultures come together, there can be clash of ideas, a clash of theology. This is the way you do things. No, this is how this is done. No, you don't set this for 3 days, you set it for 7. There are different ideas on the best practice when it comes to craft. And sometimes that makes it really hard for newcomers who enter the scene and they don't necessarily know which way to go. You're trying to find information, you're getting confused because people are fighting with each other. And when people aren't being respectful in their approach to other witches and how they practice, it can put people off. It can, you know, make people feel unwelcome and uncomfortable to be in this space because they haven't had the time or experience to dive in and feel really solid about their own practice, to just let that shit roll off their back. It's difficult when you're a new person in that space. The benefit of my coming to this practice in the 90s when the internet was so new, so many of us were coming to the craft in silos. We were able to approach witchcraft with a lot of freedom and without judgment from others. Reading books, taking bits here and there, working stuff out with friends, experimenting without fear of judgment. So while the internet coming on the scene and, becoming more prevalent in our lives with the, rise up of social media, while we're able to get in contact with other people and say, ooh, I've never tried that before, that's a great idea, and get feedback on things, human judgments are so prevalent. And there's this tendency when you're working online anonymously to just shoot off anything that comes to your mind, to not have a filter, to just be like, that's bonkers, or that's not how you do this, or you're fucking this up, and not realize and have awareness that we're literally trashing another human being and their belief system and their practice. And it might be a practice that they've cultivated over 20 years, or it might be a practice that they've just come into and they're still feeling, uncertain about whether or not this is the pathway for them, and they're looking for a sign. And they're coming to us, folks who've been in the community for a little while, for support. And then, just to have somebody bulldoze them and say, that's not how you do this. That's terrifying and demeaning. And it's not indicative of our community as a whole. I've found a lot of support and encouragement through these communities. I found a family online in folks that I've followed, folks that I've connected with. I've had the privilege of having my craft path just open up exponentially in getting in contact with hoodoo practitioners, folks who've been practicing Druidism for years in the British Isles, folks who've been practicing Appalachian folk magic on the other side of the country. I have been able to connect with so many different practitioners and just see what it's like on the other side of the aisle, that their experiences and their knowledge that they've been so gracious in sharing with me and other folks have just opened up new worlds for me. That the good has mostly outweighed the bad over the last few years. But I think sometimes we forget, and even in the spiritual community, we are so guilty of this. A gatekeeping tendency comes out. And again, it's not everybody that does this, but this happens a lot. Avalon expressed that an individual had emailed her basically telling her that a new guide she had come across was actually a demon or a demonic entity, and was fooling her as if Avalon, a witch, a hereditary witch, third generation at least, She'll be able to tell you her own story. As I mentioned, I link her video down below. Go follow her channel. But this woman who spent her entire life in her craft practice, you know, someone who has this solid foundation of craft, as if she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing, that this person would just approach her unsolicited to say, no, my guides know better than your guides, and they've told me that this new, you know, spirit in your life is evil. I call BS. And this isn't to say that this, you know, is a one-time deal either. This has happened to me on more than one occasion. That sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own stuff. And a lot of times it's ego. A lot of times it's, you know, drinking our own Kool-Aid. That we get to a spot where humility falls away and we just impose our beliefs and our practices on other witches. And it's a shame. It's a damn shame. And the timing of her video couldn't have been more perfect, because another practitioner and I came across a tweet by another occultist who's well respected in the community. Not going to name names, because not just going to trash folks and throw them under the bus. But this individual tweeted something that seemed very condescending, and even to the point of being a harmful take, because they didn't really elaborate. They just kind of vaguely tweeted something that almost promoted apathy in the face of climate change and what's going on with the environment. Basically, on the surface, suggesting that we should just allow the world to end. And however you feel about that is however you feel about that. But this friend and I were very much like, this isn't a great take, my friend. You know, I think maybe you really need to reconsider this. And then, you know, I chimed in and was like, no, this is bonkers. And I think someone should tell you that this is bonkers. And the individual in question, rather than going, wait, several folks are coming in and telling me that this is a bonkers take, maybe I should look at this, was very condescending to everybody replying to it, and said, you know what? You're just not there. You just don't have the capacity to understand what we're all getting. This is way over your head. And I'm going to try and be as kind and polite as I can in this video, because my Virgo sun just wants to tear this individual apart. But then I would be doing exactly what this individual was doing, which is taking a position of, I know better, right? And, you know, whatever their take was, whether or not we disagreed with them, the amount of ego to come from a place of not saying, okay, if I throw out a take, 20 people look at it, and only 2 of those 20 agree with me, and the other 18 are like, whoa, think maybe you need to re-examine or share more information to back up what it is you're trying to say. You know, maybe you're not being clear enough in your message. To examine that and say, am I being clear enough? Am I getting my message across? Or are people misconstruing my communication? Not that this is on them, that this is on me to make sure that my idea is being communicated clearly. And that I'm not shooting things over people's heads, that I'm saying things in a way that folks are going to understand it and actually understand what I mean. They'll get it. But coming from a place of, little people, you 18 folks just you don't get it. You're not there yet. You've got more work to do. Wow. Okay. It just really puts folks off of our community. Because when they see that, when they see someone who has a relatively large following being condescending to their peers within the community, any newcomer coming along is going to say, well, everybody in this community must be just off their rocker. I'm not even going to try. I'm not even going to go down that path. It leaves everybody else with a bad taste in their mouth to then think that, wow, maybe everybody in that community is egotistical and doesn't know what the hell they're talking about. And why should I, pay any attention to them? Why should I invest in that community? Why should I try and learn anything from them? It hurts the entire community. And anyone who wants to try and be a part of it, when you just let ego and disrespect rule your interactions with your peers. So that's really my takeaway of it. It's those few interactions in conjunction with what Avalon's gone through in the past week, I think have really opened my eyes up into the fact that these interactions are becoming more prevalent, and that as a community, we need to have discussions about them. And when we see someone being disrespectful, someone being just rude in their interactions with others, that we don't just sit idly by, that we call that out, that we call those folks in to have a conversation, to say, look, I get that you feel very defensive about your point of view. I get that, something in whatever this other individual said has, triggered you. But I invite you to really look at what it is that's causing this upset and whether or not you're being fair to the other person in dragging them down, in shooting down their opinion or their thought or their practice, because that's not the norm for you, because that's not how you do things, because that's not your thought process, or that them disagreeing with you is a reflection of their inability to understand a concept. That maybe what needs to happen is that you need to get a little bit more firmer in how you share your thoughts and opinions in a way that more folks can understand it and really get your message. That maybe you need to clean up your communication a little bit. And I need to do the same. it's caused me to examine how I come across to folks. Am I being patient enough in explaining things? Or am I just, shooting from the hip, getting defensive of my own opinions and practices and not allowing space for me to learn something new? This month marks my 20th year as a student and practitioner of witchcraft. One might say that that's a long time and that I know a lot. And really, at the end of the day, I'm still a student. I'm still learning. There is so much here to explore. I don't think anyone, even if they're a hereditary witch, from birth all the way up until death, say they lived a very full 95 years on this earth, well past the average for a human being. And they practiced every single day and they studied every single day. Even on their dying day, with their last breath, I don't think you can consider them to be an expert in craft, because there is just so much of it in this world to learn and to explore. 20 years, and there are still subjects and topics that I'm getting introduced to on a daily basis that folks are saying, hey, take a look at this. And I'm going, wow, how did I not see this before? How did I not, stumble upon this, in the last 20 years? Where has this been hiding? And it's not that it's been hiding anywhere. It's just that there is so much of it to get through. I think maybe it would be beneficial if each and every one of us, whether you've been studying for 20 days or 20 years, that we take a time out and we start examining our interactions in our groups. How can we make the environment more welcoming? How can we pay back in kindness the generosity of the folks that paved the way for us? How can we do that for the next wave of witches coming in? There are so many folks that I can think of in my history. Mentors that I've had in person, the wonderful and beautiful and amazing Teresa C. here in San Diego, who led me in a second renaissance of my practice. The magical Avalon Cameron, Ethany Dawn, whose covens I've been a part of, who have taught me so much about their own personal practice. Benabel Wen, this magical, mystical woman who shares so generously on her YouTube channel. Her book, The Tao of Craft, is just fucking amazing, by the way. So if you're interested at all in the least bit in, Eastern esoteric mysticism, you need to check out her YouTube channel. I'll link her below as well. The countless number of folks that I've run into on Twitter who I follow, who have been patient with me, who've answered questions. The freaking phenomenal Deborah Blake. My God, woman, you are in my heart forever. Matt Oren, Devin Hunter, Storm Fairy Wolf. You three are just... I love you boys so much. I just do. So many folks who are working tirelessly and selflessly. Christopher Penzak, my God, you are an angel on this planet. There are just too many folks for me to name here right now. But these are folks who I've had conversations with, who I've talked to, who I've interacted with, who have just been so open and welcoming and generous with me that I just have to stop and think, How can I pay that forward? And I think that's a really good place for the rest of us to start. Look at the folks whose channels you learn from. Jesse Huttenberg, oh my God, so many, Kellyanne Maddox. So many folks, you guys. Too many people for me to name in one video. Like I said, if I just ran through all of the people who've been so kind and generous to me over the years, Devin Strickler, who runs The Connection on Facebook. You are absolutely my soul sister. 100%. I will love you forever, woman. I will. Look at each and every interaction that you've had, the people who've been generous with you, the folks who've taken the time to explain things to you, who've been patient, generous with their time, and see how you can pay that forward, how you can emulate that for anyone coming to you and asking questions. I'm not saying that we need to be doormats for any person that comes up and is like, I have a question about witchcraft, and isn't willing to put in the work or research themselves. No. However, if you come across someone in a group of yours who's stuck, who says, I've been working on this spell, here's what it is, I've hit this roadblock, I can't figure it out, the very least we can do is not be that asshole who just jumps into the comments and says, well, duh, you didn't do X, Y, or Z, no wonder this failed. Whew. If you're gonna be that person, the very least you can do is just not comment. Just let it pass and let someone else who has the compassion and the capacity to be there in a supportive role for that individual, let them chime in. Okay? If you can't find that in yourself to pull up, because just slamming everybody for what they're doing wrong or what you think their practice should look like is a quick way to tank each and every one of these communities and just ruin it for everyone. So if we want to protect our spaces, if we want to create sacred space online, I think the best action we can take is to take a pause before we hit that send button or that tweet button or post button and say, is this helpful? Is this supportive? Or is this just going to shame and hurt the person who's asking for help? I mean, I think that's a pretty easy question to answer. And if the answer is, yeah, this is going to hurt, just delete it. Just delete it. Don't send it. I don't care what spirit guide's whispering in your ear telling you that, you know, this other person's thing is wrong. It's not your place to tell other witches that their practice isn't right. Because what might be right for them doesn't necessarily have to be right for you. Okay? And moving forward with compassion, which I think is one of the most underappreciated attributes that a human can have, is really the right direction to go in. Again, that's just my personal opinion. You can absolutely disagree with me. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on your interactions with our communities in the comments below. Let me know, like, what you think. Have you experienced this? Or you're like, nah, Corey, you're crazy. Everybody's just amazing and supportive. Or have you also come across just rude, disrespectful folks who just are coming from a place of assumption and ego. I think it's a problem, and I think it's a problem worth discussing. But like I said, curious to know what you guys think about it. So yeah, that's just needed to pop on. We've been cleaning, like I said, over the weekend, and this has been on my mind so much, I couldn't stop thinking about it. That Twitter interaction happened right before Avalon's live. And since her live stream, I'm just like, oh, I need to chime in. Like, I can't not talk about this. I can't not talk about it. And it's, like I said, it's made me look at how I want my messages to come across. And I want there to be more compassion. I want to move forward just with compassion. As much compassion as I can muster for others and for myself, especially. All right, loves, I'll let you go. This was quite a long rant. Thank you for sitting through the entirety of it with me. And I cannot wait to see you guys in the next video. Like I said, we will resume with walkthroughs and more deck stuff and more book reviews too, because I'm looking at an entire shelf here. I put all of my new books on the shelf above my computer. There's a lot of stuff there. There's a lot of stuff there that needs to get talked about. So regularly scheduled programming will be coming. You know, once I get into this new rhythm of balancing the doctor's appointments and work and soccer practice and, you know, homework and all of the other stuff that comes into my everyday roles. But you'll be getting more videos soon. I do promise that. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with me. I hope that you will subscribe, and I cannot wait to see you in the next video. But until then, lovelies, blessed be.